Smooth Productions.
And was there any other issues you saw that came up during Guantanamo, or some other things or what some other things that you experienced while you were there?
Well, when remember 2000, late 2002 and early 2003, we hadn't invaded Iraq yet. So of the nearly 700 unlawful enemy combatants, as we have to call them, around 700 of them were in the camp at the time, and they were continuing to build on it. The people who were building it, most of them were contract. There was Halliburton who was building it, of course, because Dick Cheney. So they got that government contract. But most of the contractors they brought in were from Indonesia and Malaysia, Muslim countries. From listening to what the MPs were telling the general, they were finding saw blades painted onto the wall behind the toilets in the cells. And this was a common thing. My patrols would constantly run into a couple of these guys where they shouldn't be, overlooking the camp and drawing maps. And we'd take them into custody, and I had to turn them back over to Halliburton, and Halliburton removed them from the island. It was madness. Madness.
They were drawing maps, you
Yeah,
said?
I recovered hand-drawn maps of Camp Delta from several of these guys on several different occasions. So literally, Halliburton had the greatest threat to the camp security was the people that Halliburton brought to build the camp. Can't make this up.
That's definitely not that's a little alarming. And did you have any personal, did you have many personal interactions with members of Halliburton?
No. I didn't have a single interaction with any of I'll say the white guy in the suit who was running the show. I would bring them in, turn them over to the MPs, and that was the last I saw them when we caught them.
And around about, were you still at Guantanamo when the Iraq invasion began?
Yes, and to my unfortune, I was there when the lie was created. To go.
The weapons of mass destruction is what you're referring to?
Yeah, if you remember the quote unquote hard evidence that came from the newly developed Pentagon intelligence agency that Rumsfeld set up, and it was based on information provided from enhanced interrogation on Guantanamo, and we all know it wasn't true, and some of us knew that now. But it was bizarre. I'd see I went and got a TV and had it in my command post where I spent a good amount of my time, and I generally had C-SPAN on. I was watching the debate to the Iraq War. But the stuff I'd see on the news coverage of the camp was nothing like what was going on there. I don't know how the reporters got here and determined that this is the way things are. They see the same things that I see. So that was frustrating in and of itself.
Were there ever any reporters there at all?
There were constantly reporters there. And we had, sometimes we'd get tasked to provide someone for an interview, and we'd tell them what they could talk about and what they couldn't talk about, and told them what to say. And they stood in front of the camera and said the things that we told them to. And that was that.
And so, why do you think there was misreporting for what was going on, and they were giving the public a different viewpoint?
My opinion, there's so much money to be made waging war and killing people overseas. And so the people who make that money are going to make sure that they get what they want.
Do you remember any specific examples of the misreporting that you can recall from back then?
I wouldn't say misreporting, but things that weren't that just weren't covered at all. For example, when we got there, we had not invaded Iraq, so nobody there. They all came from Afghanistan, all of them. Back then, we were paying bounties for bad guys, and it was a great way for people to make money and get rid of an enemy permanently. They'd turn in someone they didn't like, tell them they had something to do with the Taliban, and collect their money. So we paid money for every village idiot in Afghanistan, because there were a tremendous amount of detainees with severe mental health issues. I mean, they were all living in one block, and outside the camp at night, you could hear them in there making animal noises.
So, in your opinion, did you feel they were a terrorist risk at all?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm sure some of them were legitimately picked up with when they had engaged with or were planning to engage with the forces that we had over there, but a lot of personal vendettas were solved in Afghanistan, and we paid for. We literally paid for it.
And when you were there, was there any high-profile names that came through Guantanamo?
Kareem Sheikh Mohammed, KSM. He was coming right at the end. They built a whole new facility just to house him. That we kept checking out on our night patrols, and we got busted, and the brass came down and told us, do not ever go anywhere near there again. And of course, we didn't listen to them. But it was interesting. Like several hotel suites built right next to each other.
That does seem pretty
bigger rooms than the room I shared with 9 of my guys.
That does seem quite a bit of elaborate setup for a detainee, which is very interesting. Did he ever come out of that facility?
And he was getting there right as we were leaving. So by that point, I knew we were finally going home. Because once the Iraq War did happen, that was right when we were supposed to come home, and we were doing 12-hour shifts, 12 days in a row, and then going into a 6-day rest and training cycle. So, and we were figured, this takes the least amount of people to do it this way. It's hard. It sucks. We got to do it day and night, but it's only for 6 months, and then we go home. But when the Iraq War happened, we got a stop hold, and we got our deployment extended another 6 months. Nearly had a riot. I did have a mutiny. Morale was in the toilet. So I spent a huge amount of my time checking on the guys. I mean, I had several suicide risks. I had a PTSD event. One of my guys just started randomly beating up one of the soldiers. And like I told you about the guy in Kosovo, I had to go deal with it, and I hot potatoed him, and I got rid of him, and I never wanted to see him again. I wanted to get him out of there. It was like he was going to infect everybody, and we were all going to start having problems. Because that was the stigma that was strong in 2003.
We'll maybe we'll be able to get into that a little bit later today, but yeah, that's definitely something I want to talk about. But at the time, were there some in your unit where they being deployed to Iraq at that time? Is that why the mutiny happened?
It was no, it's that because of that was the mutiny was was caused. We had to get up extra early, and so we could do a battalion formation, as the battalion commander wanted to. And it was a tipping point that pissed off one of my squad leaders, who was having a tough time in life because he had found out that his wife was messing around at home. So he acted out and he ordered his squad to all go on sick call.
What
and they
is
did.
that exact? Can you explain what that is?
Sick call?
Yes.
Oh, when you that's a common thing. You know, in the Army, you start your day with PT, you know, push-ups, sit-ups, run, you know, for an hour. If you are ill, there are medics available, and you go on. You say, "I'm going on sick call," and you go see the medics, who will tell you what's wrong and give you whatever you need. It can be used to sham. You know, there were times in Germany when we had been up late the night before in the club drinking and only had a couple of hours of sleep, and now we smell like distilleries, and we're out there in the field doing push-ups and sit-ups. So sometimes, you know, one of the guys would go get an IV, you know, just to get hydrated. But it was the combination of that one event, his personal life, and also the crushing realization that we have to repeat, you know, what we did for the last 6 months for another 6 months before we go home.
And was it? I'm assuming it was immediately recognized by your battalion commander what was going on.
I did not share that information with him. He and I we were having, we were at odds on many things. I was one of the only guys who would challenge him on some of the decisions that he made. We were constantly arguing. Command meetings were long because I would argue. So I tried to keep from going to him as much as possible. I took care of it internally.
And when, because it seems like that wasn't a very fun relationship, to put it mildly.
Yeah. Because, well, to put it bluntly, all 100 of my soldiers were bitching up at me. And when I would go to bitch up at my commander, you know, he'd like, don't want to hear it. So I had a hard time getting things done that would help my guys.